We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Friday. No, it's Thursday. It's Thursday. Having trouble keep track of this shit. But we have a guest today, a guest that you're very accustomed with. It is Old Soul. Old Soul, welcome back. It's great to see you again.
Yeah. It's the week went by kind of quickly.
Yeah, and you were saying you were pretty busy, and you had an update of some of the things going on in your life. And I think one of those has to do with the now famous wild child.
Yeah. That's why I was kind of running a little late because I had to, kind of talk to her a little bit. So like my daughter, she's fluent in ASL, which is American Sign Language. And she, taught her some stuff, not like she knows more than me, but she knows like the basics of it.
Right.
And so she goes to school and teaches her friends the alphabet like A through E. And they
Mhm.
are using the alphabets to sign to each other and help each other cheat on tests. And
Oh,
they got busted out because one of the substitute teachers is fluent and saw what they were doing. And yeah, so that happened. My
so when you
daughter, she
say
was
that
like,
they
go ahead.
know A through E, so what was it, like a multiple choice test? And she goes, "It's C with ASL."
Yeah, it's funny
Smooth.
that you said that because when I was talking to her, she was like, "Well, we can only do it on like multiple choice." Like that doesn't make it any better.
No, it
But I was
doesn't.
just really stressed out about it, and my daughter's like, "You remember how she like cheated to skip ahead to get her driver's license?" I'm like, "Yeah." She was like, "Well, when you don't say stuff, then she'll keep doing stuff." I thought maybe it's just because of my age, and I think some things are more important than others, not wanting to make every little battle a war with her. Um, and then my daughter was like, she understands that, and I didn't even think this way. But anytime you have a child that maybe has like a disadvantage or is struggling a little bit more, for some reason, like things have just been unfair to that person, you tend to be, a little bit more loose with that person, but it's not helping. So
You cut them a
I don't
little
know what I'm
slack.
yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do about it, but I talked to her and I was like, hey, I just got an email from Boomer, so I'll talk to you about it later. I don't know how I'm gonna resolve that. I don't even know if it's a thing to be mad about. I don't know. It's like I care, but I don't care. I don't know how to
No,
explain that.
I mean, all you can really do is point out that it's, first of all, wrong. Second of all, it's unacceptable. Third of all,
Yeah,
it can't ever happen again. It's very simple. And if it
yeah,
does happen again, the consequences are going to be severe, whatever that might be.
yeah. That's she'll keep you on your toes. And it's things I do let a lot more slide with her. I wouldn't even let my daughter slide with that. I wouldn't let my honey starter slide. Even the children in our community, it's like, oh no, y'all tripping. But I give her a little bit more leeway. And I guess I need to rectify that and try to, you know.
Does Kelsey ever listen to the podcast?
Yeah, she does. Anytime
She
I'm on, she's listening to it.
Okay. Well, let me just say this to Kelsey as a father and a grandfather. What the fuck are you doing? You're a smart girl. Why do you have to cheat? That's absolutely ridiculous. Old Soul expects more out of you. I expect more out of you, and I haven't even met you. You've gone through a lot of shit. Why would you want to create more shit for yourself? Use your brain, do the job, don't take the shortcuts because you'll pay for it in the end. Coming from a guy who knows about taking shortcuts and having to pay for it in the end. So listen to what Old Soul says. Don't cheat. You don't need to fucking cheat. You're smarter than that.
She does not need to cheat. And 1,000%, I'm on board with you. And I go
All right.
back home this week for, you know, a little bit of time off, and you know, we'll have to deal with the in-person parts of it. So yeah, that was the
Yeah.
update on it.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up. I'm a little disappointed. But I've had kids and grandkids that have disappointed me in the past. That isn't the end of it. There
Yeah.
is no, there is no apocalyptic. I mean, I'll always back up my kids and my grandkids, no matter what. But if you want to get through this world, you got to know how to navigate it. And when you're young, 15, 16 years old, you don't know how to navigate it. As smart as you think you are, you don't know. And
Yeah.
focus on what's around you, think about it, and then do the right thing, and you'll be much happier for it. Because I went through some shit when I was 15 or 16. I've done some dumb shit. That's inevitable. But learn from the mistake and don't make the mistake again. It's better off in the long run. You typically have clients coming through, women coming from red states who need help with their reproductive health care, and you give them a place to stay. You have anything like that going on now?
I don't have anyone at my home this week, but I know that somebody was coming next year. Um, it's kind of like mentally draining to be in Trump country right now.
Mhm.
The Deb, she went back home. She got back home on Monday, and I think that it was a good time. Like it's a good thing her PTO was up because it was time for her to leave. It was just like mentally exhausting for her. So she was still feeling a little sad today when I talked to her, but I think she'll be okay. We had a girl, she started her period when she was like 11 and she was like
Mhm.
14 and she like never stopped like her cycle. She's been like bleeding ever since then. And luckily we were able to talk the parents into going into like the city because we would like, take them on a bus, take them to the city, to the OBs and, all of that kind of stuff. And it was hard getting her parents to let her go. And then we find out that she has like fibroids and something that the doctor said that they could do is freeze them off. I forgot what the name of it is, but they could freeze it off. And
Mhm.
her parents were completely against it because they felt like they didn't want her to be seen or touched in that way. I guess that's how you could say it. So hopefully they will change their mind on that. I feel bad that there was like another group of parents that I was talking to about their daughter, and I had to use some of that sexism language that they used to speak to this family, and it kind of like turned my stomach. But I feel like I had to say it because that was the best way of getting through to them when it comes to
You
that. So
you had to speak it in terms that they understood as opposed to something a little more highbrow or a little more sophisticated.
yeah, it doesn't make it easy even though you're doing the right thing because there was another girl and her cycles was like all over the place, really heavy. She was getting like a lot of blood clots. It was rough for her. And when we were talking to the parents, the reason that they allowed for her to go to clinic with us was because they were like, well, if she's like having these issues with her cycle, then who's going to marry her and she's not going to be able to have children and that's going to be frowned upon, all of that kind of stuff. And then I felt bad because there were other like adults that was there that was not in her family. They were just like from the church. And apparently like the little courting that they do, like the one person that she kind of like bonds with the most, his parents were there. And the dad was just like, well, if she's not going to be able to have children, then, we're going to have to start looking at someone else. So they allowed her to come to the clinic with us. So when we come to the next girl, trying to get her family to say, hey, she has these fibroids, they're on her uterus, this is how they can resolve that issue. I had to tell them that, this is the best thing to do because, if this causes any kind of infertility or anything like that, what's the church going to think? What's her partner going to think when, it's time for her to be paired up one day? And I hate to talk about a girl like that, but that seemed to get through to them because I just used the language from the previous family. And of course,
Wow.
Debbie, she was pretty sickened by the conversation too because we had to talk about her like she's nothing without that part of herself. So yeah.
Wow. I mean, what you describe here and the mindset that you're telling us of these people. What is this fucking church on Little House in the Prairie in the 1870s? Jesus Christ. It's 2024 and we've got still have people that behave and think this way. That's unconscionable.
Yeah, the one girl was lucky. She got The doctor gave her like 2 rounds of progesterone, and then they gave her the birth control tablets, and was just like, explaining to her how to take it. She didn't even know what the placebos in the pack were. We had to explain to her, when you get to these brown pills, like for that week you're going to have your period, but as soon as you start taking the colored pills, then your period should like stop. And luckily, like with the progesterone and the pills, she was actually like, within a couple of days her period had stopped. So that was good. But the other girl wasn't so lucky because, they did the ultrasound and found out that's what was going on. But I think the parents, they're like really, really considering it after we talked to them about, if she's not fertile, like what good is she? Like that's how we had to talk to them. And then they were like, well, yeah, that's a good point. And then I was telling them they don't have to disclose that to anyone or say that. And it's weird. They've been like praying for her and doing all of this other stuff. And Debbie, she had to say, well, you have to remember, like, God doesn't make mistakes. He created doctors. And this is a
Right.
female doctor. She's already seen her. She seems to be comfortable. So we had to kind of like coax them into it. They haven't given us if they're gonna let her do it or not this weekend, but fingers crossed that they will let her go and get those frozen off.
I'm curious, doing what you do and helping people out, coming to your home and dealing with the whole issue of reproductive health care. Now that Donald Trump's inauguration appears to be imminent,
Yeah.
Donald Trump will be taken over. What's
Mm-hmm.
the attitude? What's the talk about amongst those people that are pro-abortion that were hoping to fight against this? Are they just feeling completely disappointed, or is there some fight still in them about this?
The people were who are pro-choice and who saw what it really looks like, and they turned around and voted for Trump, they tend to live in a different reality. And their reality is Republicans are small government. They are all about states' rights. There's no way they're going to do a national ban. And then there's other people that's like, oh, yeah, he's going to do a national ban. What do we need to do in case that happens? And then we just try to do the best that we can. But it's kind of like a lot of those women in the red states and those evangelical women, and then they even do say, hey, if there's a national ban, we still have the exceptions. They still don't grasp the fact that the exceptions are just paper. It doesn't mean anything. You have to literally be like knocking on death's door in order for you to use any of those exceptions. But they're still living in their own bubble. We'll see.
When we talk to Trumplifucks, when I talk to Trumplifucks, all the
Mhm.
things they believe are going to happen and all the things we know are going to happen, they're just delusional or they're in denial.
Yeah.
I get to a point where I get very frustrated, where I feel like I just got to go, oh, well, there's nothing I can do now. Step back and let them fucking burn down. And they will take some collateral damage too. And that's unfortunate. But, we spent a long time trying to avoid this by telling people what the truth is. But some people just refuse to listen or comprehend or investigate. And they brought this on themselves. And it's just amazing to me.
Yeah, I think for me, what kind of helps me like stop myself from going crazy is to understand that it's going to be bad and try to make that blow like as soft of a punch as it can be, just to try to make it a little bit easier for those who didn't have a say so in this. I don't want to say I don't care about people who know who Trump is and still voted for him anyway, or people who decided to stay home, or the sexists that couldn't vote for a woman, or the racists who couldn't vote for a woman, damn sure not a black woman. It's just I don't try to like accommodate them. I just try to help those who didn't have a say so in this. So when you're a girl and you're a minor, you didn't have any say so in this. If you're a child and your parents voted for someone who was against school lunch or voted for someone who wants to cut SNAP benefits, and you're going to be hungry as a result of what your parents did. Those are like the people I try to focus on, and not the ones who willingly put this country in that situation that we're currently in right now.
What really confounds me about this whole election, we talked before, and we have all these things that made Donald Trump a horrible candidate, made no
Mhm.
sense that he could ever win the presidency. But I always believed that overturning Roe v. Wade, the impact it had on the midterms in 2022, and how much it affected so many people and how dangerous it was for so many women, and that allegedly 70% of the people support Roe v. Wade. I thought that alone was more than enough to get Donald Trump beat handily. But then we have the election, and it turns out I was completely wrong. 49% of this country don't give a shit about Roe v. Wade. They don't care if it's overturned. They don't care what happens to the people that are marginalized and damaged by these draconian laws and such. I just don't get that. It makes no damn sense to me at all.
Well, it's because they do care. They just don't care for, as a collective, as a country, as a whole, how we will be affected. They care about themselves and how it would affect them. So
Right.
when we were like knocking on doors, getting signatures, trying to get referendums on ballots and all of that stuff, these women were very passionate. They did care. They pushed, they put themselves out there, going against family and churches and friends. Like they really did care. And then once they felt like, okay, yeah, we're safe, we have our referendum, we're going to be okay, then they stopped caring. I think looking back on it, if we would not have gotten those referendums, it could have swayed the election the other way because the women would not have felt safe. They wouldn't
Oh,
have felt
interesting
daughter
point.
safe. Yeah. So once we allowed them to feel safe and took away that fear for them, it was easy for them to go against the grain because they don't have to worry about everybody. When it's their lives on the line, it's different. So they did care and they do care about themselves. And I'm starting to see that they care about their daughters and granddaughters too. But if they don't have a fear that something can happen to them, they don't feel that same level of fear for other people's children. And I think that was the difference that I didn't notice, but looking back, it's clear as day as what happened.
That makes a lot of sense, and I hadn't considered that, especially it affecting the election by what was done in the states to protect those folks. That's the one thing you do see a lot with Republicans. They're very selfish. It's all about me. When do I get what I need? How come they're getting it and I'm not getting it? It's a very selfish attitude. And that may be
Yeah,
okay in the short run, but in the long run, it's going to burn you down because it will come back to haunt you. I think a lot of these Trump-fucks believe that, okay, they're going to raise prices or deport people, but they're going to deport the Democrats and the people of color, not me. Even if I'm a person of color, but I support him. By virtue of supporting Donald Trump, they aren't going to hurt me. They're in for a big surprise because you can't separate people out like that. If you're
yeah.
brown, no matter who you voted for, you could very well be deported.
Yeah, something that I've noticed in Trump country is how untouchable, or I guess a better way of saying that is how safe they feel. Like, oh, we're in a red state. We voted for Trump. He's cool with us. He's not gonna let anything happen here. They don't mind the wildfires in California because hey, that's a liberal state. Like it needs to burn to the ground, or some of them even say like, that's God coming through and casting down on blasphemy and all this other crap. I don't know. And what I say to them, because I don't try to like hold back when I'm talking to them, is you better hope that your government and the citizens in this state kiss his butt to the level of satisfaction that he expects. Because the moment your government does something that he doesn't want him to do, say something he doesn't want him to say, or the midterms turn around and the results are not what he wants them to be, he can like snap just like that. So you don't feel comfortable because it doesn't take much for an unhinged person to lash out. And we saw that with the 2020 elections, how he was calling these governors and threatening them and all of this other kind of crap. Don't feel safe because you're in a red state, because Trump is very unpredictable. The people he has around him is very unpredictable. So you try to push back against him the tiniest bit, and that's it. I don't know how they feel safe, but they do feel safe. Like, we're in a red state. We good. We got a Republican government. We're cool. It don't work like that. It does not work
To,
like that.
to those people, I would say take a look at all the people that were on his cabinet in 2017 to 2021.
Yeah.
All of them were fired or quit or were indicted or testified against him. All you have to do is read that report that Jack Smith put out. All these people that were his best buddies, the best people to hire, are now his enemies. And he is not happy with those folks. Donald Trump's a narcissist, yet they don't keep friends very long.
Mm-mm.
Eventually, the bad side comes through, they infringe on somebody, and then there's a fight. And that's where you'll get the retribution from Donald Trump. I
Yeah.
I mean, even like Florida, maybe Florida feels safe because they're a red state and they voted for Donald Trump. Think back over the last couple of years, how many times he's liked and hated Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
Um, I've got a little prediction, and I base it on something I've seen in history. Marco Rubio, if he gets approved to be the Secretary of State,
Yeah.
uh, and he may be the only somewhat reasonable choice. He won't be very good at it because he's a dumb guy. And when he had his hearing, there were people in the background protesting, yelling, Little Marco," which was coined by Donald Trump.
Yeah.
There was some talk about Laura Trump being appointed by Ron DeSantis. Okay.
Mhm.
Because Ron DeSantis, if Marco Rubio ends up being the Secretary of State, the governor can appoint a new senator, at least for the remainder of that person's time period.
Yeah.
Now, they were talking about Laura Trump doing that, and then she backed out of it. I thought that was very strange. Why would he not bend to um, Donald Trump and give his daughter-in-law the Senate sheet? They're giving it to anybody who fucking comes up for any position. I want to give people something to think about, and I'll guarantee you they haven't thought about it. But I'm thinking about it because it happened in my state years ago.
Mhm.
Consider this: Marco Rubio, governor of the state, works out a deal with the lieutenant governor. I'll step down, you become governor. Now you appoint me to the U.S. Senate seat. He's got no place else to go. He's got nothing else. He can't run for governor again. And that happened in this state one time before.
Yeah.
Years ago in the 70s, we had a guy by the name of Wendell Anderson. Um, and he was the governor of the state. He was a pretty popular guy. He was a young, good looking guy. And then something happened. I don't know if it was when Humphrey died or something. Um, he did that very same thing. He had himself appointed, he essentially appointed himself to the U.S. Senate. Got a lot of heat about that. But
Yeah.
don't be surprised if Ron DeSantis does something like that. It sounds crazy, but it's been done before. It's perfectly legal, and it's fucking Florida, and it's Ron DeSantis. Do not be surprised.
I don't know why anyone would. He was supposed to give up his governorship when he ran for president, and
Yeah,
he made all kind of like rules and laws that he didn't have to give that up. So I wouldn't put that past him at all.
yeah.
Um, that's definitely a possibility. They like to try to keep it within their little circle. There's a handful of people who is running this country, and he wants to stay within that handful. Even though he's not like in the thick of it, he still can stay on the outside of it, and still get his pockets fattened a little bit. So I don't put it past
Yeah,
him.
yeah, absolutely. Well, it's something to watch for. I'm not saying it's absolutely going to happen, but knowing what I know about Ron DeSantis, the Republican Party, it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah,
We've
but
got a
I
few
think
big,
was it a hurricane or something like that that was going on when DeSantis was running, and he wasn't in his state helping his people. He was out there on the campaign trail losing. He just
yeah,
left them high and dry. He didn't care about them. So it's like if your state is like flooding and people are losing their homes and insurance companies is denying claims and packing up and leaving, and you're out here talking about some 2024 and the people of Florida, they didn't care. So I think
no, they
that
don't.
we teach people how to treat us, and the residents of Florida have taught their politicians you can treat us like crap, and we will be perfectly fine with that. So I don't see him. I don't put nothing past him, not at all. He don't care.
And we know that we know that there have been some Trump people threatening California with not giving them funding, holding some things over their heads, which is absolutely ridiculous. But you would think Florida's safe, but Ron DeSantis does the wrong thing. Donald Trump will do the same thing to his own home state of Florida. So uh, if they cut off funding to California in these circumstances, that's a bad precedent, and it's going to cause quite a blowback. Donald
I
Trump
was
has no
thinking,
fucking idea.
yeah, I was thinking about, I saw a clip the other day of Tommy Tuberville, whatever the heck his name is,
Yeah,
and Mike Johnson saying that, because of woke policies and who we vote for, blue states deserve it. They're not going to be there to help them, whatever. And I remember asking Eric about the impoundment. And so, Congress could designate funds, and within 40 days, you have to release those funds. And so I was thinking that maybe a part of the attack on Canada was because, there were all these backdoor deals and conversations going on. And I think that maybe Newsom had reached out to our neighbors and said, hey, if something pops off, can y'all have my back for like 40 days? And when the funds come in, I'll be sure that you're made whole again. And I think maybe that could have been a deal that happened behind the scenes. And that could be part of the reason that the Republican Party as a whole is attacking Canada. I don't know if that's true or not, but that made sense when I heard Mike Johnson and Tuberville, saying that pretty much you have horrible policies, so you should just burn. There's it that's some of the most disturbing stuff I've seen in a minute. So
yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. And I don't know if you heard about this other story when you're talking about Mike Johnson. And this is kind of appalling. This is unprecedented. House Speaker Mike Johnson on Wednesday removed the GOP chairman of the powerful House Intelligence Committee, who was a vocal supporter of assistance for Ukraine and held other views that put him at odds with President-elect Trump. And apparently, Donald Trump talked to Mike Johnson and wanted him out of there. This doesn't happen. And it's another problem because there's supposed to be a separation of powers between Congress and the presidency, the executive branch. They shouldn't be able to have power over one another. But Donald Trump clearly reached out, clearly said, I don't like this guy, fire him. Think about it. How many times have you ever heard committee chairman being fired? I can't remember any time before, but Mike Johnson did that today to Mike Turner. He's a Republican and he's from Ohio, but he doesn't like, or Donald Trump doesn't like the things he thinks or says, or the fact that he wants to be bipartisan. So if you're a Republican and you think you're safe, well, so did Mike Turner.
yeah, I don't know how any of them feel safe. I think the most disturbing part about it, especially with me, like traveling around with a bunch of nuns, but it's pretty the way that they weaponize religion, and when you see them willing to let children, schools, hospitals, you just burn. I don't care. I don't like them, and they
Yeah.
don't think twice about that. People don't understand. There's people who are at home, like on ventilators, or they have different things that they need electricity for, and they can't leave their homes. And there's people with asthma attacks is like dying and hospitalized out there, and they're just like, yep, shouldn't have voted for Newsom. He doesn't like Trump, so to hell with it. To me, that's the most egregious part about it. But I think one step above that is if anybody claims to be of any type of faith or religion, can sit on the sidelines and cheer that on. But I have to remind myself that until it affects them directly, they don't care. They just
No, they
don't
don't
care.
care.
Yeah.
Prior to Donald Trump coming in, there was a lot of people said because of money issues and waste and all that stuff in government, we need a businessman to come in here and run this place and shore things up and make it more fiscally responsible. That was a common attitude, and I'm not. And the problem with that is now you've got a guy who's not really a good businessman, but he's got a business mind. And what you have to understand with business, it's all about the bottom line. It's all about um, the board and making sure everybody gets paid. There is no humanity involved. There is no concern for others. It's cutthroat, it's shrewd, and that's what business is about. But when you're running a country, there has to be some compassion, there has to be some humanity, and there is absolutely none of that in the Republican Party.
Yeah, I think that people forgot that we elect people to represent us. We don't elect people to tell us what to do. So if you have 70% of the country saying, hey, we're pro-choice, and then you elect somebody that goes goes to the feds and be like, yeah, I know that's what you want, but nah, we just not gonna do that. And then they turn around and they get reelected as well. You're sending signals to them that, yeah, you know what's best for us, because what we're telling you is best for us, you don't have to listen to that. So you can just do whatever it is that you want to do. That's the signals that they're getting from our votes and our actions. But when's the last time you seen like a business that was for the people, that worked for their employees, not their employees working for them? They're going to cut corners. They're going to try to save money wherever they can. They got to look out for shareholders. There's so much that goes into that. That's not what a country is. A country is about the people. And there's so many people in this country that has forgot that. It's about you. It's not about politicians. It's not about their bottom line or their money. It's about you. But when you say it's about us, the people, you have to look at everybody as a whole, and they don't
Right.
want to do. They just want to look out for themselves and what's best. And it's unfortunate that they're going to have to feel it first, because there's a lot of innocent people that's going to get caught up in that crossfire.
Well, Joe Biden gave his farewell speech from the Oval Office, I believe, about his term, about his accomplishments. And then he had some comments going forward. And one of the things he warned the people of is that we were slowly becoming, or maybe quickly becoming, a country run by an oligarchy,
Yeah.
meaning the wealthy people, meaning the Elon Musk, Peter Thiels, Jeff Bezos, and that sort of thing. And I'm sure no Republican took it seriously. Oh, no, that's not happening. Donald Trump would never let this happen. Actually, Donald Trump is holding the door open for these people to do whatever they want, as long as it means money in his pocket or power on his side. But Joe Biden and many of us know that big money is where the problem is in this country. We always knew it was a problem, but now it's just kind of exploded like a fever blister. It's everywhere. It's rampant. It's in our faces. We know it's happening. My question is where are the heroes? Where are the people who are going to fight back? I mean, of course, you and I and people in the public are going to fight back. But what about people in Congress, Democrats, or just reasonably minded people, regardless of what their party is? Where are those people? All I do is see people sitting on their thumbs, being quiet, accepting whatever comes. And that's not what America's about. It never has been. We need somebody to stand up. I mean, you can stand up and I can stand up and everybody who listens to this show can stand up, but we need leaders to stand up and fight and push back. And I'm afraid I'm not seeing that at all from the leaders that could be doing that.
Yeah, we need a particular type of leader that everybody can follow. So you
Yeah.
have like the 92 percenters, like, myself and the rest of the Black women in this country. And we're like, hey, it's not about us. It's about the country as a whole. It's about what these children are supposed to go through. It's about looking forward to the future and trying to do what's best for us as like a species, as a country. So we don't care who this person is or what this person looked like. But then there's a large part of this population that needs to look for a particular leader. This person has to be like charismatic. He has to be tall. He has to be white. He doesn't even have to be like the smartest person in the room, but he just has to give off that aura that he genuinely cares and he wants to do something for this country and he wants to turn it around. That is the leader that we I'm not even considering looking at anybody else. That's the type of leader that has to step up to the plate and do it. A lot of the leaders that you see in Congress, when you look at Jeffries, when you look at AOC, when you look at Jasmine Crockett, when you look at these people who are like hitting hard, they don't care, they pushing back, and they're taking the hit from the right and all of that other kind of stuff. None of them fits that mold. So yes,
Right.
they can, and we would be better off following them, but it doesn't help if only half of us is willing to follow. We have to find somebody that everybody can look at and agree with. And unfortunately, those leaders, their skin is not the right color, or they have the wrong gender, and people are not going to follow them. So we have to find somebody else. I'm thinking like maybe Swalwell or somebody like that everybody could follow. But the ones
Yeah.
right now with the most guts and who is not afraid, they just don't have the appearance that, or the gender that the other half of the population will go along with. We just learned this lesson with Kamala Harris. We learned that lesson. Cool, we get it, we got it. Let's not repeat that mistake again. So we have to kind of find somebody like that we can follow, because not everybody's going to follow Jasmine Crockett. That's just not going to happen. As much
Not
as
yet.
Michelle is like loved and adored, the right called her Michael the whole time she was in office, because they said
Right.
she was transgender. All of the pictures and the artwork they did, making her look like a monkey and all of that type of stuff. Do you really think those people are going to follow Jasmine Crockett? Do you think they're going to follow AOC? That's just not going to happen. We need somebody who looks the way that they want them to look, but speaks our policies. Basically, that's what we need to have that compromise.
I think people are probably surprised you saying that. And frankly, if I said it, I'd probably get in trouble. We need a white guy. But that isn't about my preference. It isn't about your preference either. It's about what we learned in this last election. We learned that there is more racism than we imagined. We learned that there is more sexism than we imagined. And the point here is to try to get somebody in this country running it properly and working for us ultimately. And if that means getting a white guy, then that's what it's going to take, at least initially. After that, we can look at other options. But the one thing we learned in this election too, the person who's going to get elected has nothing really to do with substance or
Yeah,
intelligence. I mean, if you can get that, great. But it really has to do with just one thing: charisma. And
yeah.
that's how simple minded and superficial this country is. You
Mm-hmm.
get somebody who is attractive and charismatic, people will get behind that guy every fucking time. And that's not a great commentary on this country and the people in it. It's a pretty sad state of affairs.
Yeah. It is what it is. It is what it is. I think like Debbie, she was having such a hard time, because it's like, okay, there's a lot of sexism that goes on out here. And these men in these churches, they control these women and girls like nobody's business. But when they would talk about her, they would say things like she's lost, she's brainwashed, she doesn't really know. When they say stuff about me, I'm all kind of like she devils and Jezebels and you name it. And she would be like, okay, we're here doing the same thing, talking to the same people. Like, why are you getting those names? And she would be like pushing back and really getting pissed off. And I'm like, what do you want to do? You want to like be a black woman in America? I don't think that's what you want. Like, take your little, oh, you just don't know any better, sympathy comments, and just be happy with that and keep it pushing. Like, it is what it is. But she didn't realize like how bad people could talk about you and don't care. And that speaks for like not the whole country, but for those of us who vote, a large majority of the country, they just feel like that. Like, that's just what it is. And telling ourselves something different, it doesn't help. I think like I felt a lot of guilt, and I know other women like me felt a lot of guilt. Is because we knew once they said Kamala Harris, like our first instinct was like, nope, this ain't gonna work. And we didn't push back against our first instincts. But I think we realize now, like not pushing back against that, it's not gonna help get us anywhere. So I just have to say it how it is. I don't like saying it and it's jacked up, but it's the reality, and there's no nice way to say that.
Well, and when Kamala got the enthusiasm and the support and the money, you and I both got on board thinking, well, maybe she has a chance. Maybe she can do this. But I do have to acknowledge when that option was first considered, you told me straight away, no way Kamala's getting elected. No way. And I thought, being an old white guy, I thought, oh, come on, you got to think better of this country than that. And turns out you were right, and I was wrong. I thought I gave this country too much credit.
Yeah, I mean, like we pushed through, and we did a pretty good job. And you should always hold on to hope because at the end of the day, it's possible. But I think you kind of have to, the way things are now, you have to kind of like lie to yourself a little bit because it's pretty hard. Like I can think about this whole election cycle. My very first gut instinct, I wouldn't have made it if I would have just clung on to that. So you have to kind of like let that go and say, we're just gonna give it the whole college try. Let's see. You know what I mean?
Right.
But from that I learned that gut instinct, what you're feeling that for a reason. And you just have to roll with that, no matter how ugly it may look.
Well, that's true. And, when you said that, I thought, no, that can't be right. But we come from two different perspectives. You're a young black woman, and I'm an old white guy.
Mhm.
For anybody like me to understand what racism is about or how it affects things, we haven't a fucking clue. No matter how woke or how compassionate we are, we don't know. We don't understand. We haven't been treated like people of color have been treated in this country. And it's really a sad state of affairs that racism is that rampant, that sexism is that rampant. But unfortunately, we have an epidemic of stupid, uninformed people in this country. And it's really disappointing when you look at the percentage of people that just aren't bright or are illiterate. God, how can we call ourselves the greatest country in the world when we have that much ignorance?
Yeah, the one thing I can say is that what we go through on a day-to-day basis, it kind of gives us an upper hand on the next 4 years. Because it's like, all right, well, it's going to be a really, really hard hand to deal with, but it's we just have to keep moving the way we've been moving. And there
Yeah.
are people, especially on the right, they feel like they're oppressed. They feel like they're being silenced. They feel like, other people are getting an edge up, and that's why their lives suck. They don't have the same equal hand. Every time they see somebody like Kamala Harris or Jasmine Crockett or whoever, they just say, oh, that's a DEI hire. She didn't really work that hard to get there. Somebody else should be in that spot. What they are going to realize is they see themselves as part of like that in group, and they
Yeah.
are going to find out very quickly that they are not. They're looking at Trump's cabinet picks, they're looking at his administration right now, and they're like, yep, these are all straight white people, a couple white women sprinkled in there. This is a representative of us. We're going to be good. We don't have to worry because they're going to get in and they're going to take all this stuff from the other people, and we're going to be able to be back where we were in the 1940s or 50s or wherever the heck they think they was the greatest at. And they have not realized that this is the have and the have nots. And you have not. And so as soon as they see that, I don't know why they don't see that now, but when they see the nepotism, when they see somebody like Trump's daughter-in-law being just handed a position that she's not qualified for, seeing Pete Hegseth, which I do think he's going to be confirmed, see him handling a position that he's not qualified for, and watch how horribly they botch things up, and you realize that they botch things up because they are not qualified. They are going to realize like what it really is to be oppressed, what it really is to have the rug pulled from under your feet and have other people placed above you, not because of their talent or their background or how qualified they are, but because of who they know, not what they know. When they see that happening and they actually know what it's like to be oppressed, I think it's going to be very difficult for them to deal with. But I think it's something that they have to go through that because if not, this country won't change.
Yeah. No, no, no question about that. You brought up Michelle Obama, and I think we should talk about her a little bit. She did not show up at Jimmy Carter's funeral, which
Yeah.
seems strange. And she announced that she will not be going to the inauguration. Now, Donald Trump is all upset about this. He looks at as a slight. How dare she not show up at my inauguration? Here's the irony of this whole thing. Donald Trump did not show up at Joe Biden's inauguration, which is
Mhm.
more of a snub than Michelle Obama, a former first lady several years back, not showing up at his. This is what I mean. It's all about Donald Trump. He does what he wants to do. And if somebody else does the same thing, well, then it's horrible. Donald Trump is an immature, um, paranoid little fuck. And it will come to haunt him. But you wanted to mention something about Michelle Obama's kickback.
Yeah, I would like the last time it was kind of like quite a stir, like the comment section with, Barack Obama and Trump kicking it at the funeral.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying that they were besties and, Obama, he could be the type of person that's like, dang, nobody here likes him. Nobody wants to be near him. Let me not let him feel like an outcast. So I'll sit next to him. I'll be cool for a couple, half hour, and then that's what it is. But that is not how you deal with people like that.
Yeah.
You shun them. You let them know that you're not popular. You're not wanted here. Just your little billionaire buddies and your cult following, that's your safe space. You don't extend grace to anybody like that because they are not giving Barack any kind of props for sitting
No,
next to Trump and being a decent person. The first thing
no,
that
he's
Fox
getting
News
beat up.
yeah, that little prick Jesse Waters brings out a body language expert to talk about how dominating Trump was over Obama. Michelle showing up, not showing up, they're going to say whatever the heck it is that they want to say. I am not a believer in the entertaining a foolishness. And I think that Michelle is the type of person that is within that same mindset. You couldn't pay me to go to Donald Trump's inauguration. You can't pay me to watch it on television. Us participating in we have to be the adults in the room. We have to be above it all. I think we just kind of match energy over here. And when you do things like that, it legitimizes Trump. It makes it seem like this is just a normal president that's going to be, do what regular presidents do. And it's not that. You have to like show people through your words and through your actions that this man is dangerous and this is serious. I'm not playing around with this. But if they see you sitting next to him and smiling, or they see you at his inauguration, it's kind of hard to say he's a threat to democracy. He's a
Right.
fascist. He's going to burn this country to the ground. Then why are you at his inauguration kicking it with him? If you really
Well,
think he's that much of a threat, why are you entertaining him? And I think that no matter what was said between them, what it looked like is the opposite of the message we're trying to get across. It just looked bad. I don't give a damn what they were talking about. It looked bad. And Obama should have knew better. Michelle knows better. Kamala Harris knew better. Even Mike Pence's wife knew better. But it just looks bad. And it's the opposite of the message we're trying to get out there. It just makes it that much harder. They can say whatever they want to say about it. They've been calling her a man for the past like decade now. Don't nobody care. You can say whatever the heck you want to say, but she's not gonna come to your stupid party. You didn't go
I think it was
to.
yeah, I think it was a mistake for Barack Obama to do this for a couple of reasons. For example, if I was sitting down next to Donald Trump,
Yeah,
the lip readers would have to read me saying "fuck off, shitty McShit pants," because you have to understand with narcissists, the reason Donald Trump is in this position is the very same reason be, of what Obama did there. He kind of bent to him a little bit, included him in part of humanity. And that's what the Democrats have done for the last 10 years. Well, he is the
exactly.
president. Well, he's a little crazy. They've given him grace, they've given him room, and that's why he's been able to flourish with this personality. And I think Barack Obama was wrong for doing that. I know he's just trying to be polite and not try to make a scene in the funeral. But if I'm Barack Obama, former president of the United States, I'd say, I'm coming. I'm going to pray. I'm going to do all that stuff. But do not put me near that motherfucker. Put me someplace, put him out on his own fucking island. Nobody wants to sit next to this clown. But I think Obama made a mistake there. And it's the same mistake Democrats have been making day after day since Donald Trump came on the scene. And this is why we are stuck with it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I would go to my Secret Service like, hey, you talk with his Secret Service, right? Y'all would have to figure out some other seating arrangements. Mike Pence seemed like he willing to shake his hand and kiki with him after he tried to get him murdered. Why don't you sit up next to him? I'm not gonna do that. It's way too many people up in this church for me to have to sit next to the man that disrespected me, my legacy, my presidency, my wife, my children for a decade. Y'all have got to be out your damn mind if you think I'm supposed to sit next to him and act right. So unless you want to scene up at this funeral, you need to rearrange the seating arrangements. And it's not just him because Biden did the same thing. Why are you hosting Trump at the White House and having a smooth transition? Show him the same courtesy that he showed you, which was
Yeah.
absolutely none. You don't have to do that. All of these norms and traditions that Democrats hang their hat on and they just live and die by these norms and traditions. Donald Trump came in and ran roughshod over all of that. And I feel like if you could dish it, you should be able to take it. And if you can't take it, then you need to switch up because I will definitely match your energy over here. I didn't agree with him going to the White House, any of those courtesies that went on. I didn't agree with none of that. And I still don't
Yeah.
agree with that. And for me to sit here and try to tell people how dangerous this is, for me to sit here and watch what these women and girls are going through and are about to go through, and people are worried about norms and traditions, it gets under my skin like nothing else because it's the complete opposite of that. We're like legitimizing these fascists, and I'm not okay with that. I'm never going to be
If,
okay with that.
if Donald Trump had any decency at all, he could have saved the embarrassment for everybody by coming with Melania Trump, putting her on his left side, and then putting his side piece, Elon Musk, on the right side and keep a barrier between the shit pants. Now, if Elon and Melania want to smell that shit, cool. But you shouldn't subject other people to that stench. Whether
I
it be,
think
and I'm talking about the actual stench and just the stench of Donald Trump as a human.
I think as a whole, we can do better, because Jimmy Carter, like not trying to attack his family or anything like that. But had that have been my family, I would have just pulled a play right out of Trump's playbook. I would have went on Twitter and I would have just said, our family is glad to welcome all of the former presidents of the United States still alive, with the exception of Donald Trump, to my father's funeral. You don't even want to fly flags half mast. How disrespectful is that? And you think you're supposed to come up in this church and mourn my father? Get the hell out of here. It couldn't have been, I don't even talk to my father, but that wouldn't go down on my watch. It wouldn't go down on my mother's watch. None of that type of stuff. But it's like, okay, well, we have to be norms and traditions, and this is what we always do. He shouldn't have had his butt up in the church house, no way. I'm surprised it didn't burn down with the devil sitting up in it.
Yeah.
It's insane to me that we just hang on to that type of crap because it kind of like kills our little hope a little bit too, because it feels like, we by ourselves. And that's the worst feeling, is to feel like we by ourselves. It's reality, but it's not a good feeling to know that nobody at the top has really got your back like that.
Well, I know that you heard that Greg Abbott has told his state, his government agencies to fly the flag at full staff, in spite of what the tradition is. I don't even know if that's a law for them to put it at half staff, but the president of the United States, Joe Biden, said half staff. That should be enough to make it happen. Greg Abbott wants to continue to be a sycophant for Donald Trump, but it got even worse than that. I don't know if you heard this one, that Mike Johnson somehow ordered that the flags be flown at full staff on Inauguration Day. Who the
Yeah,
fuck is Mike Johnson? That's not, he doesn't have authority over that. It's just, and it talks about the complicity and the connection between Donald Trump and Mike Johnson, which is contrary to how our government's supposed to work. There's supposed to
yeah,
be a separation, some independence. But clearly, there's no independence between Donald Trump and the Republicans in the House of Representatives. That's a bad situation for our government.
yeah. And look at the Democrats. Oh yeah, we're gonna fly our flags half staff because that's tradition. And Republicans are like, F it. We're gonna fly full because that's that's how we rock it. And then,
Yeah.
he gets to get his invite to the White House. He gets to go to the funeral and kiki with the Obamas and all of this other kind of stuff. they're not playing by different sets of rules. They're playing a completely different game than what we are playing. And we're just like skipping through the meadows, like picking flowers, like this stuff is normal. There's nothing normal about what's going on. It's insane to me that we're still doing norms and traditions, and Republicans are like, F that. And it's not just Trump, like you just said, Mike Johnson, Greg Abbott. I heard it wasn't even Greg Abbott. Like once he came out, it was like other red states that came out and said the same thing. So and why are we playing by a completely different game? We're not even on the field with these people. And that right there is what causes people to give up. Like, you know what, forget it. It is what it is. That type of stuff makes people give up.
I'll just say that when, what we should say is that when Donald Trump at 78 years old, at some point he's going to keel over, he's going to stop breathing. And when that happens, we won't worry about flying the flags at half staff because we're going to have a nationwide Mardi Gras and the biggest barbecue you ever fucking saw, and it will be a joyous time.
I, yeah, I feel some type of way thinking about him being at Arlington Cemetery. I say, give him a Viking funeral, like put him on some wood and push his butt out there in the open. Whatever happened, happened. That's how I feel about him. But that's just me personally. I know other people would not be cool with that. Like, he was the president, blah, blah, blah. But I have absolutely no kind of love in my heart for Donald Trump at all. I used to feel kind of bad for him because I know he's an unhappy person. I know he's miserable and I know he's tired of himself. And I would just feel bad. Like how bad has it got to be that freaking miserable? I don't feel like
Well,
that no more.
I think they should bury him on his golf course next to his ex-wife with no headstone. That seems like the fair thing to do. I don't know if you heard about this. Well, I know you heard about it. The report from Jack Smith that came out regarding the January 6th election interference case. And as expected, this report comes out. It's 130 pages, 120 pages, something like that. And there's a lot of damning information about this, no question. It stipulates that Donald Trump knew very well, and there's evidence that he knew very well that he lost that election, that he willingly lied about it. He purposely lied that it was a hoax or it was rigged. That's in evidence in that situation. And Jack Smith said very clearly that there was more than enough evidence to convict and put this man in jail. Without question, that's not up for debate. The evidence was there. He would have been convicted. He would have been put in jail if not for being reelected president of the United States. So those people that voted for Donald Trump, you are an accessory after the fact to a criminal. You gave comfort to a criminal. Just so you know, you people are complicit too. My question is, and I want to see if you have a different take on this, and it frustrates me. This is damning information. This would destroy any politician's career in history, save for Donald Trump. So the report is out now. We know what it is. People have read it. It's been in the media. And what? What are we going to do about it?
I haven't read it. I haven't really heard that much about it. And you know, we knew it was in a report. Trump supporters and Republicans, they knew it was in a report. The people that it's supposed to affect, the people that it's supposed to like, I don't know, just like, oh, I really didn't know this. Oh my God. None of that is going on because everybody knew. It was not even a secret. We sat and watched January 6th on our television screen, live in color, 4K. We watched it. We watched leading up to January 6th. We listened to the phone calls. We heard Steve Bannon say, hey, he's going to go out there before the results are in. He's going to claim victory. He's going to do some crazy SHIT. Everybody knew. It's not a secret. We didn't need this report to tell us what happened. Nobody cared about that. It's just, to me, it was nice to have it out there for historical value, I guess, but I didn't pay attention to it because I knew it wouldn't make a difference. Republicans are going to vote for him no matter what, until they suffer and they go without and their children suffer, which some of these people don't even care about their kids. But until that happens, they don't care. I think this right here will give them an excuse to look back and say, I didn't know I was tricked. I think that's the only thing that this report is good for. They're not going to say it now, but that'll be an excuse for them to say it later. I didn't even pay it any attention because they don't care.
I think Democrats should take a lesson from this. And as I've always said, the worst thing you can do to a narcissist is embarrass him. Okay.
Mhm.
But that said, how do you embarrass a guy who's already been adjudicated as a rapist, who's already been convicted of 34 felonies, who's already admitted on videotape that he assaults women, that has 26 women making accusations against him, somebody who has had his house raided and classified documents hauled out of there? What is there left to do to embarrass him? The only thing you can really do is personally embarrass him when he makes a mistake or he trips or he shits his pants, which could be every day. But that's the kind of attacks that have to be made because all these criminal things nobody seems to care about. And he just blows it off. And he's so delusional and so narcissistic, mentally unstable that that doesn't matter to him. What matters to him is if something happens to him personally, like he has an accident and there's pictures of shit in his pants, or he trips, or he's scared or whatever. Those are the only things that are going to have an effect on him now. We can say he's a criminal. He knows. Republicans know. They don't give a fuck. So now what we have to do is embarrass him personally. That's all we can really do at this point.
It's kind of hard to embarrass somebody that has no shame.
True.
And it's kind of
True.
hard to embarrass somebody who won't be held accountable. I think a lot of the stuff that we see and we hear and we share, I do think he's protected from some of that stuff. Of course, some of it, it oozes in. Like he has a fetish for Midas touch right now. But Donald Trump doesn't care. It's pretty hard to embarrass somebody who just they don't care. And if he does care what people think about him, then he has his base and his sycophants around him, making him feel like he's the greatest person on earth. He does not care. And the reason that he doesn't care is because the people around him don't care and his supporters don't care. Until that changes, it's kind of like kind of pointless when it comes to Donald Trump. You're trying to like appeal to somebody's better side. He doesn't have a
Well,
better side.
that's never going to change in terms of his followers, in terms of Donald Trump and their mindset and what they do. What has to change, what should have changed 8 years ago when he was elected first time, is really the
Yeah.
problem. If you get convicted 34 times or you get adjudicated as a rapist, somebody's got to call him out directly, put him in the position to be embarrassed. But the media refuses to do that. They don't have the courage, they don't have the balls to do it. And that's the thing. He needs to be called out directly. That's why I would absolutely love a chance to interview him because I would ask him questions that would piss him off. You know, you've been convicted 34 times, you've been uh, um, um, impeached twice, you've been adjudicated for rape. What makes you think you're going to be a good president? Now, he would hate that question. And I don't know why there's nobody with courage enough to ask him direct questions. The fact that he continues to do what he does, that goes back to the media. Nobody holds him accountable. Nobody. Merrick Garland didn't in the DOJ. The Democrats didn't. The media didn't. They've let this spoiled little child do whatever he wants without a reprimand, without any repercussions. And we've got a worse spoiled brat. Oh, big fucking surprise.
Yeah, the normalizing of him is insane. I do think that the reason that the media and people in positions to really get the truth out there in like a mass audience, people people get courage when they have skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know, if you have something that you could lose, you have skin in the game, you can stand up and you can push back because what you lose is more important than if you don't push back against him, right? And in the
Right.
media, think about it. These people who are like millionaires and they're good either way. They are not going to lose anything. They lose viewers, or they may lose their program or whatever. They could, maybe start a YouTube channel, but if not, who cares? They have their multi-millions. They're going to be all right. They can just coast until, they go to the upper room or wherever they go. Um, I think they just don't have anything to lose. And that's
Yeah.
the problem when you make the news for profit. Is it's all about like the money and the bottom line. It's not about the truth. It's not about the people. It's not about the country. It's not about all of that. And these people, they have nothing to lose. They are actually beneficial for Donald Trump, spewing his propaganda, get the interviews with him and his staff and the inside scoop and all of that stuff. That's what they care about. They're not going to lose anything either way. We will lose things, and that's why we push back, because we know how bad it could be. So we push back against that. But these people, they're not going to lose nothing. So why should they care?
And I guess the question is, we know what's going to happen and we know how we're going to have to pay. The Trump-fucks, the Republicans, will either think
Yeah.
they can push it out or it's not going to affect them somehow. When it does affect them, when they do feel the pain, do they react or they continue with this complicity to Donald Trump no matter what he does? I mean, there was the issue with Elon Musk. People don't like Elon Musk because what he did with these visas for tech people. Donald Trump stood with Elon Musk in that decision. You don't hear Donald Trump getting yelled at. You don't hear them talking badly about Donald Trump. Is there anything Donald Trump can do to cause concern amongst the sheep that follow him?
Actually, I think that's where we come in handy at. When we have to point out that, well, Elon Musk wouldn't be in a position that he's in if Donald Trump didn't put him there. Donald
Right.
Trump can kick Elon Musk to the curb tomorrow if he wanted to. Why doesn't he do that? Donald Trump came out and said he's for the visas. When I mean, I saw that he does use that visa process at his properties. What for? I don't know. Because it's a golf course. You don't need experts from another country to run your golf course. That doesn't. What engineers do you know work at Mar-a-Lago? It's
Yeah.
weird. But I think that that'll be one way that we can tell that there's a shift, is when a majority of Republicans start to actually hold Trump accountable and put it on him. Instead of
Right.
saying, well, Elon Musk is influencing Trump. Elon Musk we got to get Elon Musk away from Trump. We got to get Vivek away from Trump. We need him to not be around these people because they can influence him. Instead of saying, hey, wait a minute. He is a grown senior citizen, like literally grandchildren, diapers, everything.
Yeah.
Why we need to, like, he needs to fix something, he needs to change something, he needs to do it. Will tell us the shift in this country when the majority of the Republican Party starts saying, hey, wait a minute, what is Donald Trump doing? What is he up to? So the moment they stop blaming other people and start blaming him, that's when the shift is going to start.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, I got a couple other topics. This first one is about the hearings, the the confirmation hearings. We saw Pete Hegseth. There is no worse candidate in the history of this country for any position in the cabinet, let alone the Defense Department. This guy doesn't have the experience. He's never overseen anything nearly as large as the Defense Department. Everything he's overseen, he's run into the ground. He has occasion to drink too much. He has occasion to be blackout drunk and being hauled out of events. And oh, by the way, he has a little problem with assaulting women. So Joni Ernst says, well, I don't know if I want to vote for him. And I really thought when he did this hearing, that he would be exposed for what he is. And I think he was largely. He didn't answer any questions. He kind of talked a lot, but didn't say anything, a la Donald Trump. And I thought, after this hearing, nobody could possibly vote for him. But then when you hear from the Republicans, sounds like everybody, oh, he sounds like a great opportunity. He sounds like the right person for this deal. And I'm going, what the fuck? This is like Donald Trump's debate with Joe Biden. No substance, no facts, no answers. The fact that he spoke clearly and the performance was appealing to whoever That's all he needed. He did. That's why I'm saying all you need to be is somewhat charismatic and a little articulate, and the fucking general public thinks you're a fucking genius.
He's not charismatic or articulate.
Well, he's more charismatic and articulate than most Republican members of Congress. Let's just say that.
I don't think people realize how I think he's gonna get confirmed. And like I'm not even gonna hold you.
I
Like,
kind of do too.
yeah, I've just been saying to myself, like don't pay attention and don't focus on it. Just kind of like let them have their hearings and do whatever it is that they're gonna do. And when the dust clears, we'll see who's standing and then we can just deal with that. So I haven't been watching blow by blow or anything like that. And part of the reason was during the hearing when I realized that they were allowed to ask him questions behind closed doors, off camera, away from the American people, and then come out with like, oh yeah, I talked to him behind closed doors. I have a different understanding of that. I was just like, yeah, he's gonna get confirmed. I think for me, the most egregious part is seeing this woman knowing that she has been assaulted in her past, knowing what that does to women, knowing what his stances are for women and women in the military, and his proclivities to not take no for an answer, for her to be like, oh, yeah, yeah, I'm good with it. I'm on board with that. To me, that
It's
was
hard.
kind of this part because you do have, like, I deal with the wild child all the time. And you see people who have walked in her shoes and they seem like they've gotten over it. They don't care about it anymore. It is what it is. So many girls like that, it's easy to make them feel like it's just me because it seems like other people are not dealing with it the way that I'm dealing with it or struggling with it the way that I struggle with it. So it's kind of like the message that she sent when she was cool with that and on board with that. To me, that was like the most important takeaway from that is realizing that there is no low for these people. There
No.
isn't any appealing to anything that has to do with them. And so at that point, I was like, it's going to be what it's going to be. And I'm just going to turn it off and whatever happens, happens.
Well,
Because,
with Joni Ernst, the impression I get, the message I get from her is, "Oh, please be empathetic to me because I was sexually assaulted, but I don't care about the other girls. Fuck them." That's basically the attitude she's taking here.
yeah, it's crazy because when you see that it's so much bigger than that. We have like a nurse at my job that I work with kind of often, just like over the phone or whatever. She was deployed, and you worry about her being under the Trump administration.
Yeah.
You just see what's going to happen and what's going to go on in that culture that he's about to create. And to me, it's not even about him, it's bigger than that. There's a lot of women and girls from vulnerable communities. They target people who are minorities. They target people from poor backgrounds because it can be like, well, this is your only way out. You got to join the military. And then to
Yeah.
know what they are about to be subjected to. And there is nobody in Trump's cabinet that's going to be willing to push back against that culture and stick up with them. So to me, that's what it was really about. But I just think that they just don't care. They do
Yeah.
not care. And that
They
it's
don't.
hard to
They,
get your mind around that. But Pete Hegseth, I think they're all on board with that. I think RFK Jr., people don't agree with me on this, but I think he's going to be confirmed, especially when Bernie Sanders came out and said, hey, you know what? You got some pretty good ideas. Knowing in December that his attorney reached out to the FDA to ask them to start preparing to pull the polio vaccination. I mean, if Bernie Sanders say, oh, yeah, he got some good ideas, he getting in there too. I think it's going to be very few people who are not confirmed, if any, to be honest with you.
do you think at this point, after seeing that hearing, and then there was a hearing with Pam Bondi, Pam Bondi
Mm-hmm.
is somewhat qualified to be AG because she's a lawyer, because she was the AG of Florida. At least she's in the realm of that business.
Do you
And
know
she
her
went up
background
the,
in Florida?
I'm sorry,
Do you know her background in Florida?
a little bit, but go ahead and tell us.
There was a lot of like cases of fraud and theft from Trump in Florida, and she prevented any type of investigations, any type of charges, anything. Like she single-handedly said, we're not going to do anything to Trump. We don't care what crimes he committed. We don't care what tax laws we don't care about none of that. We are not messing with Trump because Trump should have had the same charges as in New York, and she was completely against that. Even the college scam out there, she's like, yeah, we're not gonna prosecute him for any of that. She single handedly did that, and people say, oh,
So,
she was an agent, she has a background. Think Bill Barr, who won't say no. That's who that
yeah,
hip is.
I think she'll be worse than Bill Barr. I
Mm-hmm.
think she has the one quality that every cabinet member needs, that they are going to be a sycophant, that they are going to do whatever Donald Trump does. Now, when you look at Pete Hegseth or Pam Bondi or RFK Jr. or Marco Rubio, and you know that it looks like they're going to get approved, you just kind of say, all right, fuck it, just do it. Fuck around and find out and learn yourself, because things are going to come crashing down. Bad things are going to happen. And there's nothing we've tried everything we can do to stop it. We can't. So burn, baby, burn.
Yeah, I think that like you and Eric, you're on the same page, and I'm on a completely different page when it
Yeah.
comes to Republicans holding him accountable, in particular in the Senate, because these people have to run for re-election. They don't want to piss off people in their district, blah blah blah. I look at it from like I guess like from growing up in a hood type of level. Donald Trump is very easily manipulated,
Yeah.
and he is the type of person that you can lay the blame at his feet. So I don't put it past Republicans using Trump to do some of the things that they've been wanting to do for decades, such as cutting Social Security. They've always talked about getting rid of Obamacare. Like all of these like dreams and hopes that they've had of these horrible things that they want to do to the American people, and the way that they want to make us struggle so they can build that gap between the have and the have-nots. I think that they have absolutely no problem allowing Donald Trump to do it. And then, as soon as the people start to push back and kind of rise up a bit, it's like, okay, hey, yeah, we got to get rid of him. This is all his fault. This is what he was doing. We was trying to stop him and he wouldn't. So now we're going to have to get rid of him. And for them to stand up and say, okay, yeah, we're going to get him out, it gives permission for Republicans to continue to vote for these people, even though they were there lockstep all the way. Donald Trump is definitely the fall guy. And I think that they will allow him to do all of these policies that they want, but allow him to be left holding the bag. If Donald Trump was smart, he would see that. I don't even think that crossed his mind. He just think he running game on everybody. I think they are going to allow him to be left holding the bag. I really do see that happening. So I don't count on them pushing back because they got to re-elect it or any of that. If it does, it'll be few and far in between that they do it.
That's well and good the way you're saying it, but there's another factor here. Not going
Mm-hmm.
to push back against tariffs. The economy goes to shit. Now, they might
Mm-hmm.
be willing to let him do whatever he wants, but when it has adverse effects on the country, on the economy, on people, and there's bad optics out there with tension camps or whatever, you
Mm-hmm.
really think the Republicans will just get on board and go along with that? I don't see that, but please tell me if you think he,
Fascist. They
yeah.
don't care about America. They don't care about us, the people. They care about that wealth gap. That's what they want to keep. And unfortunately, they've convinced a lot of people that it's not a class issue. It's against the brown people issue. It's against the LGBTQ issue. So for some reason, your life is going to be great and prosperous if there's no brown people here. For some reason, if there was no LGBTQ, your life would just be great. Like people really do believe that. They don't see that it's a class issue. Until those people see that, I do not see them pushing back on Trump at all. Because when you have the haves and the have nots, the only thing that makes that work is when the people are desperate. So if you have immigrants coming here and doing like, I don't know what they call it, the important jobs, like the engineering and all of that other kind of stuff, and you're barely having to pay them, and you get to kick Americans out of certain fields like nursing, because they're putting those visas in hospitals and stuff now too, right? So when you kick us out of those fields, The only thing that's left for us is manual labor. And we don't get to kind of say, hey, that's not enough. I'm not going to work for cheap labor. But when you're desperate, your children are hungry, you're trying to pay your rent, you're going to take whatever job you can. And the point is to make it hard, to make us desperate, to make us struggle so that we don't have any other choice. That's the point. So, yes, it's going to hurt the economy. Yes, it's going to hurt the American people. But if we are down and we're on the bottom and we are desperate, to them, that's a win-win. They don't mind that at all.
But here's something you're not considering, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but if you do these things to this country,
Yeah.
Whether it be the economy or jobs or doing horrible things with people of color, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
In order to happen at the way you are suggesting, it means there will be no pushback, no blowback from the people in this country. They'll just sit there and take it. And I don't know if I agree with that. To be honest with you, we start seeing that stuff, it will certainly affect an election because people will be even more scared than they are. But more importantly, that's when this shit's going to get violence. Donald Trump had a couple of assassination attempts just in the campaign. That motherfucker better have coverage because there's going to be a lot of angry and desperate people, and not just him, the people around him too. It's going to get violent to a certain extent, and to think that we're just all going to sit here and take it, I don't think so. I just don't believe that.
I wouldn't mind if Donald Trump did like Elon Musk and used, some of his children as a shield, Eric Jr., Don Jr., put them
Yeah,
around. They can
he could put 6'6" Barron on his shoulders and walk around.
Yeah, I do think that there will be pushback. When there is, okay, so I see 50% pushing back, 50% not. But when that other 50% kind of like wake up and come out of it and start to push back, and it's more of us than it is of them, and you have less of them willing to help with these atrocities that they're trying to do, at that point, that's when they will leave Donald Trump holding the bag. But in the beginning, especially like right now, we see what's going on right now. We see the right have no problem with California burning. We see the right have absolutely no problem with Mike Johnson, Tommy Tuberville, none of these people saying, even Mike Johnson's like, I'm not even going to put, relief funds on the floor for a vote because they shouldn't be voting for these people. Yeah, it's states' rights. And yeah, each state gets to choose for themselves, but we don't like how they're voting. So we're not even going to put funds for this on the table. And the people on the right are cool. So you have all of us on the left rising up, pushing back. They can kind of get away with that because you do have people on the right who's making excuses for it, who are condoning it. Hell, they even cheering it on. Until that side wakes up and see what's going on and realize the position that they're in and the reason they're in that position, that's how it's going to go down. That's how it's going to go down.
Are they capable of even comprehending that? I mean, they're dumb motherfuckers. How long does it take them to comprehend that?
They'll comprehend it when they feel it enough. I don't even think, because right now we see that in these red states, they can't afford for their children to eat at school, and they're cool with that. We see in red states like, hey, your wife and your daughter, they can get cancer and be denied treatment because they are in the ages of fertility. They cool with that. There's women bleed in the parking lot. They cool with that. They cool with all of it. They are down with it until they realize, like, until they take it to a point so where like you have to force them to not be cool with it. I think they're going to be all right with what's going on in this country. It's not going to bother them like that. Like they can't just feel it. They can't just have to work 2 jobs and not be able to afford to pay their bills. They can't just be homeless for a little bit or having to go crash on their mother's couch. They can't, that type of stuff. But most people will be like, hey, this is too much. They can withstand a lot more than what we think they can withstand. They have to be pushed to the point to where they say, okay, this is enough. When that point is, I don't know. And for real diehard Trump supporters, they won't have a bottom. But outside of the cult, when those people start to wake up, then that's when they'll leave Trump holding the bag. And these Republicans that's with him right now, guarantee you they'll vote for him again, vote for them again when Trump's out of the office. They can say he went rogue. We tried to stop him. We couldn't. They'll be like, okay, well, you tried. And they'll vote for him again. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Watch what I'm telling you. Just
Well,
watch.
I will watch what I'm telling you. I'm just thinking, like I said before, I'm more concerned about violence if Donald Trump gets elected. There's a
I
lot
can
of
hear
people that are terrified.
I hear your voice in my head right now, which is crazy. And it's just like, what the F is it gonna take? Like I can hear you, I can hear your voice in my head saying that. It's gonna take a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not impacted by Donald Trump at this point. I'm an old white man, but if I was sitting next to him,
Mhm.
I'd kick him in the nuts without any provocation. I would have no problem at all. And I'd say, listen, I'm 65. If I got to do jail time, I had a good run. It's time well spent by kicking him in the nuts.
Think about this. Think about this. You have senators, let's just say Kennedy, right, with his racist behind, Ivy League educated, and look at their
Yeah,
children, private schools, all
yeah,
Ivy League educated. These are their children. They even send their children for boarding school so they can get the absolute best education possible.
right.
And this man is telling his constituents, you don't need to have any kind of investments in education. And these people are like, yep, we sure don't. Going to school, that's woke. Being able to afford college, that's woke. We're against all of that. So they are allowing people who believe strongly in education, who are banning books in their constituent schools. Your children don't need to read these books. And they will never, ever go to their child's private school and say, cool, now book up off this show. That'll never happen. And the people who vote for them are saying, you know what? Yeah, educate your children. Make sure that they have different ideas and a good, healthy imagination. Let's make sure that they live up to their potential. But I'm okay if you don't want that for my children.
Yeah.
You would
I got,
think that that would be enough. You would think that that wouldn't make any sense. Us looking at it, we say that don't make any sense. Why are you listening to that? And they are
right.
saying, well, yeah, we don't believe in that woke stuff. Or what about this? Or what about that? They don't get it. And you think that they're going to be desperate and struggling and having a hard time feeding their families. Watch all these crazy GoFundMe's going up for all of these people. And they
Yeah.
will still vote for these people. And it's going to take a long time for them to turn their back on Trump. I'm telling you. Farmers
I
just
wanted,
voted for him again when he left.
yeah,
He bankrupted them last time.
I don't
You
feel sorry
know?
for him. And he may not bail him out this time because he doesn't have to. Um, I have one last thing to talk about before we wrap things up here. And it seems like a weird topic to bring up to you because you're really not on social media. You are on TikTok now, mainly
But you
because
know,
because you wanted to be on the live with me, and I'm glad that you did. But
yeah.
we've got this impending TikTok ban.
Mm,
Um, and it seems to me like the government is going, oh shit, they might actually ban it. We thought we could pressure them into selling it, and that's not working. They might ban it. And then they're looking at 174 million people on the app, which is half the country, the billions of dollars of commerce. This is going to cause some serious problems if they do ban it. So much so that Donald Trump even says he'd want to extend it. Now, they had a senator trying to pull something out of his ass by coming up with this bill. Let's just extend it 270 days so we don't have to deal with it now, much like a continuing resolution for the funding bill. But the way they
mm,
did it, they voted on it, and it was just, they're looking for a unanimous vote. And of course, Tom Cotton said nope. So that bill is not going to save TikTok. And the interesting thing about TikTok or about Tom Cotton, he should be fucking canceled. If you remember, he was talking with the CEO of TikTok, and he says, "Where are you from in China?" He goes, "I'm from Singapore." Yeah, but how is
oh,
that tied to China? I'm from Singapore. And this guy just couldn't grasp it. This is the same guy that suggested that slavery was a necessary evil. This is the same guy that claimed he was an Army Ranger in Afghanistan and Iraq, and he got a medal, which was not true. This guy is a Trump humping piece of shit. If anybody should be canceled, it should be him. So TikTok will not be saved by Congress. And he got a lot of people shitting their pants because note this thing. When it went through Congress, it was with some other things. So they kind of had to do it. Um, it was a pretty overwhelming vote to ban it or to force them to sell it. It was bipartisan. They take it to the Senate and they put up this suggestion that they're going to delay it. Only one person voted against it. These people are getting buyer's remorse. They're getting nervous now because they're going to hang that shit on everybody, Democrat or Republican, who presumably is taking away our First Amendment rights. I'm just curious your insight on it, given that you're really not in social media that much.
Yeah, I guess I do see it different from the outside looking in. What made me think that, yeah, they're going to ban it, and I could be wrong, but what made me think that they would ban it is the fact that they're saying, okay, we want to do it on the 19th, and then they're pushing Joe Biden to do it.
Right.
And the
Yeah,
reason that
I
they're
agree.
doing that is it gives them an excuse to say, hey, this didn't happen under the Trump administration. This happened under the Biden administration. Biden could have changed it, but he didn't. So as anytime a Republican can blame somebody else and not take responsibility, especially when it's something as unpopular as banning TikTok or TikTok, TikTok, I think that they will. So I think the reason that they're banning it and the reason that they will ban it is because A, they have somebody else to blame for it. They don't have to accept accountability and they can lay it squarely on the feet of the Biden administration. Not only that, but I don't believe that there's one person in the Republican Party that's going to stand up solo and do this and not speak to the rest of his party about this. I think they knew it had to be one person. I don't know whether they drew straws or how they figured out who was going to do it, but he was the one to kind of like, throw himself over the coals in order to get that done. I think it was a group effort. However they decided on him, they decided on him, and their out is banning or blaming the Biden administration. So that's why I look at it as they will ban it because they have somebody else to blame for it. They don't have to take responsibility. And I see the meetings with like Zuckerberg and all of that stuff happening behind closed doors with Trump. I think that there's some kind of deal being made behind the scenes to put that kind of like TikTok content in Zuckerberg's hand. And that's kind of like the deal that he's getting out of it.
But that's not working. That's what they thought it would do. But people are
Yeah.
going to different apps and checking out different apps, and people are leaving Facebook and Instagram in droves right now. So it's not working out that way. And here's the problem: they want Joe Biden to save it or not save it. But
Mm-hmm.
over and above whether it makes Joe Biden look good or bad, there are a lot of people in Donald Trump's realm that are heavily invested in this TikTok. One of his friends owns a large percentage of it. A lot of wealthy people are making money off of this thing. And if it goes dark, those
Mm-hmm.
fuckers are going to lose money. So the pressure is kind of on Donald Trump. He may be able to walk in on the 20th and say, okay, I'm going to do this, give it a 90-day reprieve. I don't know if that'll work once it goes dark, if they can bring it back. And I don't know if Joe Biden's going to give the 90-day extension or not. And I don't know what the best thing would be to do, because in as far as how Joe Biden looks at this, well, who cares? He's out of the business. Who cares how he looks? He signed it in the first place. Why would he? Why would he come back? But that's the only hope right now at this stage, is if Joe Biden signs something that says we'll give you 90 days. But in order to do that, you have to have a buyer in place, and I don't know
We
that they have a buyer in place.
we don't look at it like that, but the right does. I think
Yeah.
sometimes like when you think about the right and the decisions that they make, you look at it from a common sense stance. You look at it from a strategic stance, and that's not how they see the world. It doesn't have to make sense. As long as they have someone to blame for it, they will. And then you don't know what kind of like shenanigans is going on behind the scenes. We know that there's a lot of things that happens within the Trump administration that we are just not privy to. So
Yeah.
whatever deals they're making or whatever with their little, buddies, I can see something like that happening. I think that they'll ban it, but again, I could be wrong. And this is just me from the outside looking in. I'm not on that app unless you're doing a live, or I think I caught a couple of Eric's lives, and then, that's pretty much it. But I think
Yeah, I
it'll
don't.
happen.
The problem is this is about the U.S. government. There's way too much money on the table, and if they
Yeah.
shut it down, there's a lot of information about 170 million people in this country. That gets wiped out. The money's gone. Uh, People
Well,
in government
for
just don't do that. They don't just throw it away because it's too valuable.
Yeah, for America, yeah. But there's other countries that TikTok operates in, and from my understanding, is they produce more from other countries than they do in America. And so, if you have some
Yeah,
of these wealthy people behind the scenes who can somehow get their product out there through other countries, and they can kind of like circle that back into their American bank accounts or overseas accounts that they have, I think they'll be all right with that. As long as they
I
can take that American revenue and generate it somewhere else or make it up somewhere else, I think they'll be cool with that. It's just greed at the end of the day. So what's going to line their pockets? That's where they're going to go.
well, it's great, but when you're talking about companies, well, they can go over to India and do all this. Yeah, they can, but
Mm-hmm.
it goes back to what I've said. They don't want a lot of money. They want all the money. And there's a lot of money hanging out here. They're not going to leave it on the table. One way or another, something will be figured out to extend this or do something. It may go dark for one day, but when Donald Trump comes in, they're going to hurry to try to get it back up. And it may damage the app as far as who's using the app. People may be frustrated and say, we're going elsewhere. I just want to tell the folks who are listening. I mean, people who are listening now know where to find me
Yeah.
and Old Soul. Well, on Spotify for the audio of the Rational Boomer podcast, here on YouTube for the video version of the podcast, but all the short videos I do on TikTok, they're here on YouTube too, and on Blue Sky. Actually, I put some on Lemonade too. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but
Never
I
heard
put
of lemonade. I heard you and Tony
it's
talking. I was like,
it's
lemonade, what the
supposed
heck?
it's supposed to be tied to TikTok to a certain extent. And I put one picture on it and I forgot about it. I deleted the app and then I thought, well, I'll pull it up and see what's going on there. Pulled it up and I got 25,000 fucking followers. So I'm going, I better start putting some shit out there. So
I think that one thing that it's just basically in general. I would hope that the right and the left understands that this is not a security issue or anything like that, because
no,
they have
no.
absolutely no problem with Russia propaganda everywhere and the non-fact checking that's going on Facebook. It has nothing to do with national security, has absolutely nothing to do with the CCP, none of that. That's just an excuse that, they're using for whatever the reason is. Hopefully the right can see that. I also think that with the TikTok, it tends to be more of like a youthful type of app,
Yeah.
but a lot of young people there. And I think that is the bottom line of it is younger people are getting information from places and sources that's like actually the truth and telling the truth, and that spreads like wildfire over there on TikTok. And in particular with the right, I think they want to put an end to that. They don't want to hear about the mass shootings. They don't want to hear about even like the videos that I showed you about the babies and what the nurse was doing. If you
Yeah.
look at those videos, like comment sections is turned off. Like, okay, yeah, we'll show the video, but we won't play the comment section. There's
Right.
certain things that they don't want the youth in America to know. They don't want certain messages being spread. And when it comes to TikTok, at the end of the day, that is what it's about. So if they can't indoctrinate your children with all of this red pill bull crap that they're trying to spew, and children have a different place to go for information and get the truth out there, is that worth it in the end? And I think they're going to side with, no, we got to stop them from talking. We got to stop them from communicating in this type of way, especially when it's short clips, snippets. You can grab their attention and hold it for that short period of time. They don't want that to happen. So even
Yeah.
though we're looking at it as a money perspective, if they can make that revenue up, directing their sources from another country through TikTok and shut our youth up at the same time, I think that would be more important to them than, you know, them losing some dollars in America. And you got to think about, these
Well,
are like uber wealthy people as well. So
yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out. We're going to know fairly quickly because the 19th is looming. And I will have to agree with you. There is a big youth movement on the app with TikTok, a lot of young, attractive women, young, hot studs like myself and Eric, all over
yeah,
that app. Yeah, I
you
don't
know,
know.
there's some very intelligent people on TikTok, and they have a way of communicating with their peers, and that's always going to be something that's dangerous to the right. The
Yeah,
light, they don't like that, and the truth, they don't like that either. And I think
yeah,
that that would be it for them to take that away from our youth, not understanding how creative they could be, and when they're persistent and they're driven, they don't find a way, regardless. And I don't think they give them enough credit for that. And I
well,
learned that through the work.
they will find a way. There will be another app. There'll be new technology, better technology, and they aren't going to be able to shut down people talking. We're going to
Do
wrap
you
up the
have a lot
rational.
of people saying they're
What's that?
worried about it? Do you have a lot of people saying they are worried about it? Because I'm not on the app like that. I just listen to, like,
Oh yeah,
you and
yeah.
yeah.
If you go on the app, there's thousands of people in the comments and on the for you page. Yeah, they're terrified about it. They
Have
are.
they started making plans of where they would go in case? Because by the time this airs, it's going to be what, the 16th,
Right.
and the ban was going to affect on the 19th, so they would have to do something quickly. Or I guess right now the ball is in Biden's court. Have they started
Well,
making up different revenue streams or?
yeah, yeah. There's people. It's kind of ironic. There's another app that's kind of done by the same people uh, that make TikTok, but
Yeah.
it is a Chinese app, a full out Chinese app. It's called Red Note, and
Get
literally tens of thousands of people have already signed up. I downloaded the app just to see what it's about. But so these people trying to
from
keep
one
us out
Chinese
from
app
under
to another
control of
Chinese
Chinese, we go to a worse Chinese app. Yeah, it's crazy. It's
app?
crazy.
Only in America.
Only in America. That's what I'm saying. The water will find a way to flow, and you can shut down one route, but it'll go down another way, and that's how it's going to happen here. You can't stop people from talking. I want to
You
thank you for
really
coming on today. Thank you
thank
very
you.
much for bringing us up to date. And
Appreciate it. Thank you for your strong words in the beginning. I know I know the wild child is gonna be like, oh man. Because she's asked me a couple times, when are you coming back home again? She's kind of like, your parents is like, you're gonna be in trouble when I get home and you have to wait for them to get there. That's kind of like how she is, except for she has to wait until Sunday. It's gonna be a long
I
few
uh,
days.
I know you can count me and everybody else that listens to this show is
Yeah.
counting on the wild child Kelsey to be successful and to be strong and to be smart. And
Yes.
I'm just telling you right now, because I've done it before, do not disappoint the people that listen to Rational Boomer. They'll
Don't do
come
it, girl.
for you. They'll straighten your shit out so quick, Kelsey. I'm just telling you.
And I'm
I'm
gonna
not
get my
threatening you.
stuff
I'm just warning you.
I'm gonna get my stuff together and not let her slide so much because it's so easy for it's just like so easy for me to be like, okay, and make excuses. It's kind of difficult to hold her accountable, but I know I need to do it, especially now, like, you cheating and all that stuff. So I'll figure out that balance because she's been sliding with a lot, and I gotta correct that. So
You may have her,
yeah,
may need her to spend some time with your TT and your mom. That could get interesting
real quick.
real quick, real fucking quick. All right. Thanks, old soul. And those of you listening, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day and we'll talk to you tomorrow.